Namato Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening. So today is Friday the 17th of July 2020. This is Ajahn Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. So welcome to this our Facebook ongoing talks and sharing. So as I'm here again with you all. Good evening Colin, good evening Manish, and good evening Renu both and everyone. Good evening Margaret and everyone. So today is a Friday, and in Aberdeen we are having a good sunshine apparently, which is good after rains again and again. So before going into our today's topic, I just would like to announce a few things that next Saturday, not tomorrow, next Saturday we will have the ordination ceremony at the center. And if you are thinking to come to join, then be mindful of the social distance and wear the masks. Okay? And obviously we will have about 9 monks, which is very rare to have and one time in Aberdeen, because we are living in a very remote place. So this is another opportunity to meet many monks as well. But however, if you are planning to come, then be mindful of it. Okay, mindful of a social distance and mindful of wearing a masks. And as soon as you arrived, mindful of cleaning your hands. So we are working towards it, and we're working in a barn, hoping that we can make it clean and usable for this particular time of the event. Further on, I would also like to extend my appreciation to Lena and David for the generous donation towards the barn's floor that we're going to renovate again. So each the floor we are planning to have is the beam and then brick blocks. So each beams costs about £20. So thank you David and Lena for your generous donation towards it. In the meantime, I thank you Nigel and Chitra for the generous donations for the ordination ceremony that we are going to have. And they have this family have offered as to cover the transport cost for the monks, those who are coming up to the center for the ordination ceremony. So thank you. Right, so we have been talking on the Four Noble Truths on the basis of the first discourse of the Buddha, which is the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And little did I know that I have been talking on the second noble truth for a whole week, and I found that still there are a few points that I haven't completed. Most importantly, when somebody asks you what is the cause of sufferings, then the short form would be the cause of a suffering is essential pleasure, clinging to the sensual pleasure, and clinging to the existence and clinging to the non-existence. So this is the vague or in a short form of it, but I haven't discussed all these 3 forms yet. But I was just giving you a background and how this thirst or the craving or clinging links to this. And this tanha, finally, and I thought that today we'll cover one and then tomorrow will be ending for this second noble truth. And yesterday I was talking about the upadana, which is the result of the tanha. The very moment when you have a tanha, then there is a result that we would like to have attachment to it. Attachment, or holding on to it, clinging onto it. And then I have described in 4 different ways, as the Buddha laid down, that how many types of attachments are there. And the end is attachment to our own body. So this attachment I explained yesterday, and today I would like to explain a little bit on how this tanha arises, or the craving arises. Yeah? So craving is the cause of the suffering, and now I'm going to cover today this tanha, this craving itself has got the cause to arise. And this, when we look at the dependent origination, the teachings of the Buddha on the paticca known as dependent origination, see that Vedana pacaya tanha, which means Vedana, the feelings, are the cause to arise the tanha, the thirst, craving. Okay? So here, Vedana, again, is the feelings, right? So, and here feelings again arises, and there are various types of the feelings anyway, right? There's number 1 is the happy feelings, and number 2 is unhappy feelings, and there is another feeling which is known as a neutral feeling. And sometimes we feel happy because of something we got it, or something we based on something that we become happy. And again, same thing, because of something which we do not get it, or not having it also causes unhappiness too, right? So in this way, there are different types of the Vedanas, or the feelings, and these Vedanas and these feelings are the base for the cravings. Now you can see, and I think I have mentioned in the past as well, that how cravings arises, and the craving arises simply the feelings that arises in us. And in a practice, if you are practicing meditation, and particularly the Vedana-nupassana, the feeling, contemplation on the feelings that you, then you will realize that this feeling is so deep. And then the very moment not knowing this feeling, we crave to it. Right? We crave it. Now feeling, if there is no feeling, there won't be any craving. But not knowing this feeling as its true nature, which is temporarily, and the feelings are temporarily, and the feelings won't last long, but we take it as a long lasting, and we attach to it, and with that we crave for more and more. So that's why in paticca dependent origination, feeling is the current, or the present cause. Yeah? So feeling is a present cause, and the craving is the effect or the result. Okay? So now how do we get the happy feelings? Or how do we get the unhappy feelings? And these happy or unhappy, or whether it is a neutral feelings, all are based on how our senses comes to contact with the outside world. Our eyes sees an object that creates the feelings. So that's why it's called Chakku Vijnana Dhatu. Means the element of the consciousness, the I consciousness. Sota Vijnana Dhatu. He means the ear consciousness arises. And the very moment when this ear consciousness arises, that moment we will have the feelings. So subtle here, and it's difficult to understand, but I will try my best to explain. I will try to explain it, that when our six senses comes to contact with outside objects, then that moment sensations arises or feelings arises. And here six senses means eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So mind itself is one of the senses in here, because, and this is again, if you are not a serious practitioner, meditational practitioner, then it's very difficult to understand the mind as a sense of senses too. But when eye comes to contact with the object, that makes feelings. When ear comes to contact with the sound, that creates feelings too. And the same with the nose comes to contact with the smell, our mouth comes to contact with the taste, and the body comes to contact with the objects, and the mind comes to contact with the mind objects. Then feelings arises. Okay? And this feeling, again, the very moment when these feelings arises, that moment, if we are not mindful of that moment of arising, we immediately put our perceptions, we immediately put our memories onto it. Let's say you see a cup. Where the cup come from? So eye sees the shape and the color of that object, and the memory remembers this is known as a cup. Yeah? And before we identify that cup, there is a feelings, and with that we perceive. And after we perceive it, there is a sense of a clinging, or the desire arises to possess it or not to possess it. So the feelings here is the key that we generate this craving. And the same with the food. When I sees a food, and then immediately the body reacts for the appetite, and then we generally develop the sense of wanting to. Right? So desire comes. And the same with someone who is smoking, or someone who is drink. When eye sees, the senses, the whole body just stimulates some sort of, let's go and get it. So that sort of a desire arises. And again, no one likes to experience or feelings of bad things, or any bad emotions, and no one likes it. And this is again enabled to avoid. It is inevitable. There is I think I have mentioned that the road are not always paved by the rose flowers or roses. There's so many tones around. We have to accept that. But the feelings that arises through the contact with our senses comes to contact with the objects, if you ask yourself whether that lasts longer or shorter, it lasts only freaking time, and it's already moved to something else, somewhere else. So our feelings are changing every second, every moment. Every moment our feelings are changing according to our mental state, according to the environment, according to the words of others, according to the nice things happen, and like that. And sometimes we are very unhappy, and very upset with someone. And then same person comes to speak with you saying that, I'm so sorry and you're looking so good. And our feeling changes immediately. Our feeling changes immediately. And then sometimes we become very angry at someone. And the same person, if comes and says to you nice words, then your feeling changes too. And the same with everything. It's a desire to have something that arises simply because of the feelings of wanting to. The desire to have it. And this is the practice of a meditation, to see that these feelings are arising and vanishing in a freaking moment. It's a very, very, momentary arising, and something else arises soon. So Buddha used it, the simile called the raindrops, and creates the foams. When the rain falls on the surface of the water, that each rain falls on the surface of the water, that creates a little bubbles. And those bubbles won't last long. It just arises, vanishes, arises, vanishes. And when someone knows that these things are arising and vanishing in this way, then we have a right understanding about the feelings. And when we have this right understanding about the feelings, what happens is, from feelings we are not engaging in we are not engaging in a feelings, but we take it as an object. We're observing it objectively. But the very moment when we take it as a subjectivity, subjective, and that moment, what happens is that transform it into the emotion. When this transform into emotion, then that moment we hold on to it, and we crave to it, that this emotion is I like. Now I want it to last long. So we have a craving. So we have a tanha. And in the same time, if that is negative, that I don't like it, the sense of that I don't like it, then there is a resistance and pushing it away. Right? So there is a desire to push it away. And that's again the very moment when we push it away, and there is more pushing on, more pushing starts. And when we look at ourselves in our day-to-day life, if we look at it very closely, what we can understand that we like positive emotions, we like happy memories, but how many percentage that our mind are thinking of a happiness and acting towards it, compared to the thinking of a negativities and always thinking about it. So we spend more time on the negative. We spend more time thinking about the negative. And the negative emotions, negative feelings, and at the same time we want to get rid of. Now our mind is such that it's designed to develop in that way, that the more we use in one direction, that develops into that direction. That's why each one of us, when we were a very child, we had so many different aims and objectives in our lives. And we go on to the different careers. And each time, each children, takes their own careers. Their mentality develops in that way. And they become one who knows about in that subject. And our mind or brain is basically absorbing all the information regarding that. And that shapes our mind, that shapes our emotions, that shapes our brain and our life and our attitude and our perceptions to the things as well. And now, if we are spending more time on the negativities and negative emotions about this person is that person is that, this is not good, that is not good, I don't want this, I want to get rid of, so bad, horrible, always talking about the horribles, negative emotions at all the time, then how can we be free from it? Because we are training ourselves to be in that, dirty water, and thinking to have a bath with the dirty water, hoping to be cleaned. It's impossible. Okay? So that's why practice of a meditation helps us to understand that this feeling is arising only for the temporarily. We shouldn't be clinging onto it. The very moment when we are not clinging onto it, it won't be emotion. It won't be attached. It just vanishes. That is the right understanding. So right understanding of the feelings is the beginning of the right path. And this beginning of the right path is basically the beginning of abandoning this tanha, this thirst, this craving. Okay? I hope you understand now. Right understanding of feeling is the path, is the path to lead to abandon the craving. And why we can see this so easily? Because feeling is so relevant that we all feel, we all experience. I don't believe that no one has got any feelings. Every one of us has got the feelings. Everyone has got the emotions. It's a matter of how we deal with it. It's a matter of how we are going to make it out of it. The very moment when we know this feeling properly, that moment we will be able to break through all the other things. Nothing that we do without our feelings. And under the impression of feelings, untrained people or untrained mind takes to the different path. Whereas trained mind be able to be mindful and able to stop for the good and the benefit of themselves. And when we look at ourselves, how many times we are feeding our desire. How many times that we have said, no, it's enough, I'm not going to do it anymore. And most of time, almost all of us are feeding our desire almost all the time, 24/7 days. 24/7 days. When it says, when our mind desires to stand up, we stand up. When our mind desires to go and get to eat, we go and eat. When our mind desires to do something else, then we do it. And this is basically, it's an emotion or these feelings that driving us to do something at all the time. And as a result, we cannot stay still. And the silence is very difficult. So we simply feeding our desire 24/7 days. Whenever mind is willing to do something, we do it. We basically become a slave to our mind. And in technically saying, it's not the slave of our mind, but slave of our desire. And the practice of a meditation is to understand these feelings that arises, and understanding that this is the main root cause of all the cravings, the tanha. And all the cravings that we have is the main root cause of other troubles, other problems in our lives. The whole troubles and the entire trouble in the world is basically based on this craving, the greedy mind. So that's why knowing this Vedana, the feeling in its true nature, basically we are reversing or following the right path, which is the Noble Eightfold Path which a Buddha laid down as the path. One who walks on it will find the happy moment, the ultimate happiness. But not knowing this feeling as its true nature, we react on it. We put on more and more fuel on it, and that's how it's emotion. So from emotion, from feelings, it becomes emotion. And from this emotion, it becomes other mental states like anxiety, anger, jealousy, ill will, and sort of things. So, practice of a meditation, nothing more than this. All what we are doing, watching the breath, watching this abdomen rising, falling, or chanting the mantras, or verbalizing the mantras, and imagining the crystals, and all sort of these practice is just a preliminary practice. So just preparing the field so we can plant something out there to get the fruit out of it. So the very moment when we know these feelings, everything is solved. Understanding this feeling as temporary arising and vanishes, when we understood this, then there won't be any craving. But the very moment when we do not know this feeling, there is a craving for the sensual pleasure, craving for the existence, and craving for non-existence, which I will talk to you tomorrow. For tonight, I end on this topic of a Vedana. The feeling is the cause to arise, the tanha, the thirst or the craving. Thank you everyone for listening today. In a few minutes' time, we will have chanting and guided meditation. I wish you can join with us, both chanting and guided meditation. If not, we'll see you tomorrow at the same time, 6:30, for the talk, and then followed by chanting and guided meditation. And once again, would like to thank you, David and Lena, for the donation towards the barn and the floor, and then Nigel and Chitra for the ordination ceremony expenses for the monks traveling from Birmingham. And overall, thank you everyone for listening locally and internationally. And we'll see you shortly for the chanting and guided meditation. So may the Buddha bless you, and good night.